1 minute ago. Ellen arrested while on the run. Twitch family drops bombshell. Ellen can't escape. Ellen DeGeneres, once America's beloved talk show host, has been arrested while attempting to flee a courtroom investigation that's rocking Hollywood to its core. The family of the late performer Twitch just dropped a shocking audio recording and damning evidence revealing Ellen as the mastermind behind a secretive, manipulative, and abusive network masked by fame and philanthropy. The smile is gone. The truth is unraveling layer by chilling layer. The courtroom was packed, cameras banned, but tension soaked the air like storm clouds before a break. Ellen DeGeneres sat at the witness stand, not as a defendant, but as the star witness. Her tailored suit crisp, her face unreadable. She was here to testify against Sean Diddy Combs in the ongoing federal trial that had captivated the world. What no one knew, still doesn't know. One Diddy case, witness, turned into defendant midway through trial, when prosecutors presented evidence from victim's family. This surprise was a gift for Ellen, the deviation from reality to deny the relationship and turn into evidence against Ellen in court. Judge Harrison Trent called the court to order. We'll now proceed with testimony from Ms. Ellen DeGeneres regarding events linked to Mr. Combs between 2019 and 2022. Ellen cleared her throat. I accompanied Sean to several industry events parties. I never saw anything illegal. I was told everything was consensual. But the room would not stay convinced for long. Across the chamber, the prosecution team played the first audio recording. The voice was unmistakable Stephen Twitch Boss. It was the final message he recorded before his death. This isn't random. If they say it's suicide, no. I was with Ellen. She told me to smile. She said the room was safe. It wasn't. I think she knew. Gasps. Reporters scribbled. Jurors leaned forward. Allison Holker Twitch's widow sat frozen behind dark glasses. She didn't flinch. She had heard this before. The voice memo unraveled slowly. Twitch spoke of late-night penthouses, NDAs signed under pressure cameras he never saw but felt, and Ellen, her name, came up again and again, the one who brought him in, the one who said nothing when he hesitated. By the time the tape ended, the tone in the courtroom had shifted. Bondi Assistant Prosecutor stood. We now request entry of financial statements, linking Ms. DeGeneres to multiple LLCs, registered to Shell talent agencies. Each corresponds to dates of private gatherings hosted by Mr. Combs. Judge Trent raised an eyebrow. You're connecting Ms. DeGeneres not just as a witness, but as a facilitator. No, Your Honor, Bondi replied. As an operator, the narrative jumped to 2020. Private messages between Ellen's assistant and talent scouts outlined scouting missions to specific bars and clubs in Los Angeles. Young women flagged for potential. Follow-ups sent to Shell agencies tied to Ellen's business network. Behind-the-scenes footage showed Ellen laughing with Diddy at a New Year's Eve party. The camera lingered as a small group of dancers. Twitch among them waited in a hallway, unsure. In another clip, a blurred figure later confirmed to be Twitch sat quietly in a VIP suite, back pressed to the wall. Ellen stood nearby, speaking with a man whose face was never clearly captured. The audio was muted, but the silence screamed. The second half of the hearing began, after a brief recess. When court resumed, Bondi didn't hold back. We've obtained IRS flags on a dummy corporation tied to DeGeneres and registered under the name of an inactive artist also found on her guest lists. Screens showed transactional data including airfare to party sites, high-value wire transfers, and a $3.2 million payout to Allison Holker, listed as legacy grant. Ellen's lawyer objected. Sustained in part, said Judge Trent. But Ms. DeGeneres, can you explain these business entities? I have teams, legal, financial. I don't micromanage paperwork. Ellen answered, her voice quieter, but her tone cracked. Then came the real blow. A third-party witness, one of Ellen's former producers, testified anonymously via video. She was different at those parties, the voice said. Colder, calculating. She made decisions about who entered which rooms. Sometimes it felt like she was vetting, like sorting. A murmur passed through the room. Outside the courthouse, protesters held signs. Justice for Twitch, she knew. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended globally. Celebrities posted cryptic responses. Some unfollowed Ellen silently. Others issued support for Twitch's family. But no one defended her. Inside, the judge declared a suspension until the final voice file could be verified. The title was simple: If They Say I Gave Up. Bondi requested immediate forensic access. Ellen, once America's beloved daytime star, now sat alone at the defense table. Her silence thundered. The court recessed. But for the world, this was only the beginning. Day 2 of the trial. The cameras remained outside, but the world's attention pierced through the walls. Ellen DeGeneres, once the nation's daytime darling, returned to the stand. Her posture was stiffer, her voice more calculated. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Prosecutor Bondi didn't wait. Ms. DeGeneres, do you recognize this transfer on screen? A $115,000 payment, routed from a shell corporation to an event firm connected with one of Diddy's 2021 artist retreats. Ellen squinted. That's not my signature. But the LLC belongs to an entity you created registered to an address owned by a DeGeneres Foundation branch. Her silence was the only answer. Bondi stepped aside. A new witness took the floor, Devin Rice, a former talent scout. His face was pixelated for privacy. I was contracted to locate high-potential personalities, dancers, models, hosts. The specs were always the same: young, new, off the radar. Eventually, I realized many were being routed through agencies that only existed on paper. He paused. I brought at least 3 women to one of Ellen's events. Each time she personally approved them. Ellen whispered to her lawyer. No objection was made. Bondi continued. Can you confirm if those individuals are currently working as contracted performers? 2 are. 1 left the country. Under what circumstances? Devin hesitated. She told me she wasn't allowed to talk to anyone anymore. The courtroom froze. It wasn't just about parties now. This was about pipeline power and silence. The prosecution played another piece of audio, this time not from Twitch, but a voicemail left on an encrypted burner phone. Voice feminine, aged, filtered through digital haze. Don't bring him again unless you're sure he won't talk. Ellen was clear. Smile, play music, and don't let him drink too much. The audio had been authenticated. Prosecutors linked the number to a prepaid SIM card purchased with a DeGeneres Corp employee's credit card. Bondi leaned in. Ms. DeGeneres, are you familiar with this number? I don't recall. Do you deny instructing staff to manage Twitch's behavior during these gatherings? I deny knowing he was ever unsafe. But he told you. Silence. The court reconvened after a break. The tension was unbearable. Your Honor, we have completed forensic verification on the 3rd and final audio recording, Bondi announced. Judge Trent nodded. Proceed. The lights dimmed. Audio played. Twitch's voice now stripped of hope. I tried to leave. Ellen said it'd ruin careers. Said if I loved dancing, I'd keep quiet. But it's not dancing anymore. It's bargaining. He listed names, initials. SEG. There's a company, I don't know the name, but it has her prints on everything. Money flows in from clubs, from sponsors, and no one knows where it ends, except her. The tape concluded with a final note. If they play this and she's still smiling on TV, then we all failed. In the courtroom, no one moved. Bondi walked to the center. We submit this recording into evidence as direct contradiction to the narrative that Ms. DeGeneres was an unaware bystander. Federal agents took the stand next. One showed a slideshow tracking over a dozen shell companies, all interconnected through DeGeneres Holdings. Payments labeled as entertainment consulting were dispersed from accounts in the Bahamas and routed through tax shelters linked to known nightlife investors. One of them, unnamed, was confirmed to have attended at least 4 of the parties Twitch referenced. A still frame showed Ellen arriving at the Highland Viceroy, Dec 11th, 2021. The metadata placed Twitch at the same location same night. Flight records showed Ellen's jet had no registered crew that day, only the pilot. A document was presented, a signed NDA, with Twitch's stage name filed by a company under the name Illyria Artists, now confirmed as defunct. Ellen was listed as a silent partner. Allison Holker returned to court. This time she spoke. Her voice trembled only once. I found the recordings days after his death. He had kept them on a drive I didn't know existed. He was scared, but he wanted someone to know. She looked directly at Ellen. He trusted you. Ellen turned away. The court played a clip from the Ellen Show's final season. Twitch entered late, sat quietly. Ellen asked, "You good?" He replied, "Depends who's watching." Gasps echoed. The judge called for order. Online the storm had erupted. She knew was trending. Former staffers began coming forward. 3 ex-producers told independent outlets that Ellen maintained strict control over guest lists and backstage access. Multiple NDAs surfaced, each referencing off-site professional obligations. An anonymous email was leaked if Twitch flips pivot to mental health. We've used it before. Even longtime allies remained silent. Celebrities known for public support, Portia de Rossi, Oprah, made no statements. Netflix quietly removed Ellen's specials from their carousel. Then came the elevator footage, recovered from hotel security. Twitch and Ellen enter alone. There's no sound, but the interaction speaks volumes. She gestures downward. He turns to leave. She grabs his arm. He freezes. That night, an official DOJ spokesperson confirmed Ellen DeGeneres was now under criminal investigation for obstruction conspiracy and involvement in trafficking under federal RICO guidelines. The hearing was suspended, but the fallout continued. Streaming platforms issued apologies. Sponsorships dissolved. Charity organizations distanced themselves. Outside the courthouse, a child held a sign, "He danced for us." Who protected him? Ellen didn't appear the next day. Judge Trent issued a bench warrant. America watched and waited. It was day 4 and Ellen DeGeneres had not returned to the courthouse. Her attorney issued a short statement to the press. Our client is cooperating fully from a remote location under federal supervision. Inside the court was colder. No laughter, no chatter, just the quiet tension of systemic unraveling. Pam Bondi entered with a stack of documents and a new witness. Your Honor, we call Ashley Monroe. A former assistant talent coordinator, Ashley once worked on the Ellen Show's final season. She looked tired, measured, but resolved. I handled guest bookings and VIP accommodations. I was told never to ask why certain names were excluded or pushed last minute. She glanced at the prosecution. But one day I got a call from Ellen's office. They asked me to prep a room. No cameras, no phones. Special guest. Turned out to be a choreographer from a dance competition. He was young, excited, nervous. He left the room an hour later, shaken. Bondi asked, "Did he say anything?" He just asked if that was the real Ellen. Ashley then provided an email chain. Internal communication from a showrunner referred to the encounter as recruitment vetting. A series of internal documents were entered into evidence, emails, contracts, non-disclosure agreements, all linked to DeGeneres Entertainment Group. One email stood out: if we're onboarding from nightlife, keep it off the books. Have E's handler approve before onboarding, no paper trail. The initials matched Ellen. The term nightlife appeared 17 times in the archive. Bondi addressed the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at an infrastructure deliberate, layered, and carefully hidden, built to protect those at the top. Across Los Angeles, murals of Twitch were being defaced, not out of hate, but despair. Messages were spray-painted beside them: "You deserved better. Forgive us." On Reddit and X, formerly Twitter, Former dance colleagues of Twitch began sharing cryptic references, text messages, odd invites, deleted photos from private gatherings. A Reddit post from a user claiming to be a security contractor went viral. I worked 3 events for her. No phones, NDAs, big names. Some didn't know where they were or why. The post ended, "I quit," after a girl asked me if she was allowed to leave. Back in court, Bondi made her move. "Your Honor, we have reason to believe that Ms. DeGeneres not only facilitated access, but actively participated in the recruitment and conditioning of vulnerable talent. She presented a list, flight manifests, party rosters, communication logs. It showed dozens of individuals brought in through artist development weekends. One of them, only listed as ML, had filed a sealed affidavit alleging coercion. Bondi read from it. "I thought I was being mentored. I was told to trust Ellen, that she helped launch people. But I was touched, filmed, then left behind." A pin dropped in the courtroom. No one moved. Judge Trent took a deep breath. "Proceed." Cybersecurity experts testified next. They presented data from deleted apps, recovered messages, and GPS metadata from Ellen's devices. They showed maps of repeated visits to luxury venues tied to other defendants in the Diddy case. Text threads revealed instructions to cycle talent every quarter and keep pressure light until onboarding. Another exchange, "He's pushing back. Move him to the charity circuit. Frame it as exposure. If he resists, drop." The phrase charity circuit raised eyebrows. Investigators connected it to televised fundraising events Twitch had emceed near the end of his life. That afternoon, Twitch's mother was permitted to address the court. She wore his favorite color, royal blue. "My son danced because it brought people joy. But joy shouldn't be a prison." She looked directly at the press bench. To those still covering this like gossip, he was a person. He deserved to feel safe. He deserved the truth. As she returned to her seat, several jurors were seen wiping away tears. Judge Trent turned to Bondi. "I want a full witness list update. Every anonymous filing, every sealed document. If this infrastructure exists, as you describe it, doesn't end with her." He added, "I'll be issuing judicial orders for executive testimony from all named executives in DeGeneres Holdings." Gasps. Bondi nodded. "We're prepared." The courtroom adjourned, but not in silence. Outside, the crowd had grown. Some wept. Others screamed. One man stood on a crate and held a sign. "The truth is not a punchline." No one laughed. The media frenzy was no longer limited to court reporters. Streaming networks paused their reruns of Ellen's past shows. Sponsorship banners disappeared from her website overnight. Netflix removed her latest comedy special without comment. Meanwhile, Judge Trent called for an emergency closed hearing. Inside, prosecutors introduced a key witness, Julian Cates, a forensic accountant who had spent 3 months embedded in the IRS task force reviewing Ellen's assets. "What we found was beyond tax evasion," Cates stated. "This was a flow of influence. Money laundering through hospitality venues, shell companies, and a modeling agency linked to a missing partner." He displayed a diagram, the shell corporation Illyria Artists, connected to multiple tax havens. At the center, Ellen's foundation, and one unnamed individual, suspected to be the legal representative for the company's operations. Later that day, another witness emerged, Camilla V., a nightclub hostess from Club Cirque in Miami. Her voice was digitally altered in court. "I was approached by a recruiter, said someone big wanted to mentor fresh faces. I thought it was modeling. It was Ellen." She paused. "At the event, I saw her speaking with Twitch. He didn't look okay. He kept asking where the cameras were. I left early. That night I got a wire transfer for $12,500. The payment was confirmed by prosecutors and matched to an unregistered account belonging to a shell LLC linked to Ellen's former executive assistant. Transcripts from recovered texts were read aloud. He's getting nervous. Then gaslight him. Say it's his anxiety, and Ellen. She'll charm the media, she always does. These were found on a phone belonging to a junior producer who had worked on Ellen's farewell tour. That phone had been wiped, recovered only through encrypted backups. On social media, longtime fans were conflicted. Celebrities who once filled Ellen's couch now avoided the topic. One former guest posted cryptically, "We all smiled for the camera." But some smiles survived. BuzzFeed released a retrospective article titled "The Cost of Kindness," tracing how Ellen's brand allowed her to bypass scrutiny. It ended with the line, "The house always wins," until it doesn't. On day 7, a shock witness took the stand, Lydia March, Ellen's former showrunner. Her immunity deal was confirmed. I didn't know how deep it went, but I knew enough. I saw NDAs stacked on my desk for crew who just wanted to quit. I heard rumors about the off-site retreats. Ellen said it was hands-off mentorship. She paused, but I saw the guest lists. They weren't mentorship events. They were scouting trips. And Twitch, he wasn't on the roster. He was invited by Ellen directly. She ended with one statement that sent ripples through the courtroom. She said if he ever talked, she had a way to make it look like heartbreak. Twitch's widow Allison returned to court. She read from a prepared letter. "I wish I could unhear the recordings. I wish he'd never met her. But most of all, I wish I'd listened when he said something was wrong." Behind her, Twitch's sister held a framed photo of him dancing on Ellen's stage. It stayed in full view throughout the session. Judge Trent turned stern. "These proceedings are no longer speculative. I am issuing subpoenas to obtain all remaining internal communications from DeGeneres Holdings and their partners. We will also subpoena celebrity guests known to have attended off-site events." Gasps from the gallery. Bondi simply nodded. As the court recessed, protesters outside held up new signs. "Kindness isn't a brand. It's a burden." And just before the feed cut off, reporters caught a whisper from Bondi as she left the courthouse. "She's not the only one." Judge Trent opened the day with a firm declaration. "This is no longer about optics. This is about a criminal enterprise." The prosecution unveiled new digital evidence. A forensics expert testified about a cache of deleted video files discovered on a secured drive tied to Ellen's personal assistant. One file timestamped just 3 weeks before Twitch's death was particularly disturbing. In the footage, a hotel suite was prepared with luxurious decor. There were rosters, ID scans, and checklists. Twitch was seen entering, flanked by Ellen and another unidentified man. No sound, but his demeanor was nervous, visibly reluctant. Ellen smiled and gestured toward the interior. A witness from hotel security confirmed that room was under the name Daylight Productions. But we were told it was a private fundraiser. Prosecutor Pam Bondi unveiled a detailed organizational chart mapping connections between Ellen's brand, Illyria Artists, and a network of nightclubs, wellness retreats, and youth talent programs. Bondi narrated, "These weren't coincidences, these were pipelines." The court watched as the names of 4 victims appeared blurred for privacy. One was a former backup dancer, one an aspiring model. All were connected to Ellen's events and reported similar language: "You're being chosen. This could launch your career, trust Ellen." The court gasped when Bondi added, "All 4 are in therapy. 2 have attempted suicide. 1 was underage." Twitch's final memo was finally introduced. Authenticated and read aloud, it was raw and unfiltered. "I believed her. I thought she saw something in me, but she saw something to use. If they say I gave up, remember I didn't. I was cornered, I was scared, but mostly I was tired of pretending." Silence gripped the courtroom. Even Ellen's legal team didn't object. Lydia March returned briefly to clarify earlier remarks. She presented a voice recording Ellen had left accidentally on a shared cloud folder. In it, Ellen said, "We can't control everyone's feelings. If someone regrets a choice, that doesn't make it our fault. We gave them opportunities. Some couldn't handle it." Judge Trent narrowed his eyes. Does this suggest awareness of trauma induced by these opportunities? Bondi nodded. We believe it does. And more importantly, it suggests callousness. Major sponsors cut ties. Former allies released statements. Warner Brothers executives were summoned to private hearings. A viral tweet summed up the mood. She told us to be kind, but only if we kept quiet. Public polls showed a 72% drop in trust for celebrities previously viewed as advocates. New conversations erupted about fame power and the manipulation of goodwill. The judge allowed Allison Holker to submit a final statement from Twitch's children. It read, "We miss you, Dad. We know you tried. We know the truth matters. And we'll dance again for you." Tears rolled down several faces in the gallery. Judge Trent then issued a new order. All assets tied to Illyria artists are hereby frozen pending the conclusion of this trial. Pam Bondi concluded with a quiet, firm statement. This was never about fame. This was about silence. And we just broke it. Day 6 opened in a packed courtroom. The air was charged not just with anticipation but consequence. Dozens of new subpoenas had been issued overnight. Pam Bondi arrived early, her team armed with documents, sealed evidence, and a name, the missing link. Your Honor, she began, we intend to show the court that Ellen DeGeneres was not simply complicit, but in fact was architect and executor of a covert grooming and influence network hidden behind celebrity philanthropy. Bondi produced a private journal recovered from a locked cabinet in Ellen's Montecito estate. A forensic analyst confirmed its authorship. Pages detailed meeting notes, lists of club hosts, and chilling phrases like, warm them up with kindness, move fast after trust, Twitch is too intuitive, keep close. Model Scouts Report 3 from Atlanta worth screening. A gasp rippled through the room. The courtroom was silent as a video was played. Ellen, from a now-deleted live stream, smiling as she guided cameras through a charity gala. In the background, 2 now-identified victims. One looked directly at the lens. Her face was unreadable. Later, that girl would testify she hadn't been invited, she had been summoned. Bondi motioned to introduce Twitch's third and final audio file. If they say I gave up, his voice began soft and deliberate. Know that I fought. Know that I said no, but no one was listening, except you. If you're hearing this, then maybe you will. Gasps. Murmurs. A reporter dropped his pen. Bondi then called a new witness, a producer under deep cover whose voice was modulated. I worked events from 2016 to 2021. We were told to separate new performers from veterans. Ellen liked control. If someone pushed back, they were labeled emotionally unstable, and if they kept asking questions, they stopped getting invited. Did you ever speak to Twitch? Bondi asked. I did, once. He asked, is this how people get ahead? I told him, this is how people disappear. Ellen was escorted into court under sealed order. No cameras. The room went still. Judge Trent offered her a final opportunity to speak. She stood gripping the edge of the stand. I tried to build something beautiful. And maybe I ignored the rot underneath. Maybe I caused it. Bondi interjected, you didn't ignore it. You ran it. The judge allowed her to continue. I thought I could control the chaos, make it safe, but it was never safe. And I let that lie keep going. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. The verdict guilty of criminal conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and facilitation of abuse under California's extended coercion statutes. Sentencing was set for 30 days later. Judge Trent's voice was calm but firm. Justice isn't vengeance, it's light. And today we shine it in every corner we once ignored. Outside the streets were quiet, then slowly applause. From the courthouse steps, Twitch's children emerged with Allison. They held signs that simply read, he was right. Within weeks, studios launched integrity reviews. A wave of industry resignations followed. Non-profits formed under Twitch's name, aimed at protecting young artists from exploitative contracts and hidden gatekeepers. The Artist Integrity Review Board proposed mandatory third-party oversight for all celebrity-backed mentorship programs. A new law, the Boss Act, was introduced to Congress requiring transparency in celebrity-endorsed entertainment talent initiatives. On the day of sentencing, the courtroom overflowed. Ellen was sentenced to 12 years of conditional incarceration, part served in monitored rehabilitation, part in public restitution and service, including mandatory speaking engagements on abuse of power and institutional accountability. In her final statement, she said, "I danced with darkness and I mistook silence for mercy. I was wrong, and I am sorry." The final moment belonged to Allison. She took the mic once more. Stephen never asked to be a hero. He just wanted to tell the truth. Today, that truth stood taller than power. The Ellen DeGeneres Show was removed from syndication, but Twitch's videos remained. His dancing now served not as entertainment, but as testimony. And on the anniversary of his death, thousands gathered downtown to dance in silence, each step a message, each motion a tribute, because he didn't give up. The world just finally decided to listen.